pornography. What would the entertainment industry look like without copyright? As a model, we might examine the segment of the industry for which copyright is not so important. While the pornography industry is nominally protected by copyright, it does not receive the type of social approval that other industries have, and as a result the industry has not focused on the use of the legal system to protect its intellectual monopoly. When we read of the FBI seizing illegal DVDs and raids in Hong Kong, it seems that they seize illegal copies of The Sound of Music, and not illegal copies of Debbie Does Dallas, although we suspect that pirated copies of the latter are widely sold. Despite social disapprobation, in most relevant respects the pornography industry is similar to legitimate movies and recordings. Producing and distributing a pornographic movie or magazine is, technically and economically, no different from producing and distributing a legitimate movie or magazine, so we can gain considerable insight into how the legitimate industries might operate in the absence of copyright by examining the pornography industry. In an earlier era, with the large overhead of producing movies and glossy magazines, the pornographic industry operated much as a legitimate industry operates. However, the tenuous legal status of the industry has made it difficult for them to use copyright laws to inhibit competition, and so as technology has changed, pornography has become a cottage industry with many competing small-scale producers. It is perhaps not so difficult to imagine that in the absence of copyright, the legitimate industry would have been forced to adopt the same model. So we may see the current stage of the pornography industry as a model of the legitimate industry without copyright. If we turn the clock back to the 1960s, when the legal pornographic industry first became widespread in the US, we find that publishing costs were high, and that the industry was dominated by a few giants, most notably Playboy and Penthouse. However, unlike the legitimate industry, these large monopolists were not able to inhibit entry through the manipulation of the legal system, the abuse of copyright law, or through political favoritism. The consequence has been that as technology has changed, this has become an industry in which entry is frequent, and innovation constant. Still, as long as the main technology for the reproduction and distribution of pornographic materials consisted of glossy magazines and movies circulating through the chain of X-rated movie theaters, the threat of competition and imitation was weak, and the big houses thrived. All through the 1980s and then, at a much faster pace, the 1990s technologies such as videotapes and the Internet became available and were quickly adopted. Indeed, it is arguable that the replication and distribution of pornographic materials was one of the reasons for the early explosive growth of the Internet during the 1994 to 1999 period. The thousands of Internet sites distributing pornographic materials around the globe are, most of the time, imitators of the main initial producers, most often in violation of copyrights and licensing restrictions. Online pornographers are usually among the first to exploit new technologies, from video streaming and fee-based subscriptions, to pop-up ads and electronic billing. Their bold experimentation has helped make porn one of the most profitable online industries, and their ideas have spread to other legitimate companies, and became the source of many successful and highly valuable imitations. Notice that if intellectual monopoly were a necessary requisite for sustained innovation, the circumstances we are describing should have brought the porn industry to commercial standstill, halted innovation, and greatly reduced the amount of pornographic materials available to consumers. We are all well aware that exactly the opposite has happened. The consequence of the tremendous reduction in the cost of copying and redistributing visual materials, and the advent of peer-to-peer networks has not brought about any reduction in the quantity of new pornography available to consumers. Indeed, it seems to have expanded considerably, nor are we aware of complaints about a reduction in quality. There has, however, been an extremely adverse impact on the monopolies that originally dominated the industry, with Penthouse filing for Chapter 11 protection, in Playboy and Hustler dramatically losing profitability and market share. When we originally wrote this section, during a visit to Hong Kong in March 2004, the local newspapers announced the shutting down of the Asian edition of Penthouse, yet the newsstands in Kowloon and Hong Kong were bursting with pornographic materials, all from the many competitive imitators of those fading monopolies. If we compare the pornographic movie and entertainment industry to its legitimate counterpart, we find an industry that is more innovative, creates new products and adopts new technologies more quickly, and for which the reduction in distribution cost has resulted in more output at lower prices, and a more diverse product. We also find an industry populated by many small producers, and no dominant large firms capable of manipulating the market either nation or worldwide. European intellectuals and politicians, obsessively fearing colonization by American movies and music, should take a note. Strengthening copyright protection, as you are all advocating, may just make you a couple of euros richer and a lot more intellectually colonized. Finally, in pornography we find an industry in which stars, be they actresses and actors or directors, earn a good living but are far from accumulating the fabled fortunes of the stars of its monopolistic counterparts. The evidence shows that porno stars make many more movies and earn between 1 and 2 orders of magnitude less, overall, than regular stars. In other words, they work more and make less money. This may seem a bad feature of the non-protected industry, but from a social point of view it need not be. Indeed, it is the other side of the fact that more and cheaper porno movies are available. The stars of the porno movie industry are simply a lot closer to earning their opportunity wage, economic parlance for what they would be earning, given their skills and the prevailing market conditions, in their best alternative occupation, than are the stars of the legitimate movie industry. Organizing markets and industries in such a way that goods and services are provided while factors of production, either labor or capital, earn no more than their opportunity cost, is what a socially desirable policy should aim at. Now, on the basis of the available evidence, we cannot rule out the possibility that Sharon Stone or Brad Pitt, unlike Tara Patrick and Rocco Siffredi, have such lucrative alternative occupations that they would have given up Hollywood, had they not earned the tens of millions of dollars per movie that copyright laws allowed them to earn. Still, we cannot help but wonder if many legitimate actors and actresses would leave the industry if intellectual monopoly protection evaporated. While it is clear that the dominant firms and the big players in the legitimate industry might fear such an outcome, there is certainly no reason for the consumers of these products, legitimate or not, to do so.